Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Africa News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the death toll from the Ebola epidemic sweeping through West Africa continues to rise. The latest figures from the WHO estimates over 4,800 have been killed by the virus. In Burkina Faso, the government's push for a referendum on extending the time a president can serve riles up the opposition. Critics of President of 27 years, Blaise Compaoré, are calling for a day of civil disobedience. And those UN peacekeepers in DRC are ordered to protect, hold more demonstrations, telling them to get out. Troops fire shots to disperse crowds gathered outside a base in Beni. They're furious after 2 people were killed at an earlier rally. First up, Ebola's now killed over 4,877 people and remains a massive threat to West Africa. The WHO warns that new cases are cropping up at an alarming rate across Liberia, Guinea and Sierra Leone. They're at the heart of the outbreak. Senegal and Nigeria were also touched by the virus, but are now in the clear. Spain's faced 1 case, and a handful of patients in the US has seen authorities there route travellers through from the worst affected countries to 5 specific airports for enhanced screening. Now, the WHO discussed the travel curbs in Geneva today. Dr. Margaret Harris is part of the organisation's emergency West African response team. She's in Sierra Leone and joins us now. Doctor, thanks for speaking to us. Now, the WHO is against travel bans, but just how do you strike a balance between that and the need to take adequate precautions over travel to and from affected countries?
And you're absolutely right to call it a balance. The reason we're against travel bans, if you ban travel, you ban travel in and out of a country, you stop the necessary resources needed to fight the outbreak, and also simply to supply the people in that country with all the food and the other goods needed to just keep on going. But with the efforts we're making to battle this outbreak, we need to have open channels so that large numbers of people and resources can stream in, because that's what it's going to take to block this outbreak. So that is one reason we're very concerned about travel bans. But of course, you do need to be vigilant. You do need to ensure that people who are symptomatic do not travel, and that is why screening is very important in countries that are affected.
Now, there have been recently some successes in clinical trials for Ebola vaccines. How big a part and how quickly will immunisation treatments play a part in the response effort being put into play at the moment?
Well, immunisation, as you know, is a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful tool for preventing things, for preventing a healthy person from becoming sick with an infectious disease. So for all the people who are now infected, immunisation will not be the thing that will change the course of their disease. But for the people in countries around the affected countries, and for people in communities where there is not yet infection, yes, immunisation, if the promise that these vaccines are offering us holds true, immunisation will protect those communities from infection.
Thanks very much, Dr. Margaret Harris there, speaking to us from Sierra Leone. In Burkina Faso, the government's plans for a referendum that could lead to an extension to the 2-term presidential limit has riled up the opposition. Critics of longtime leader Blaise Compaoré accuse him of preparing a constitutional coup and are calling for a day of civil disobedience next week.
When the government announced it would seek a referendum to extend the president's rule, the opposition reacted swiftly and condemned the move.
The people of Burkina Faso now have no other option but to enter into civil disobedience. We have to resist this measure, boycott it.
The country's main road was blocked by 100 demonstrators, and a national day of protest has been planned for next Tuesday. The government wants to change Article 37 of the Constitution and allow Blaise Compaoré to run again. He's already been in power for 27 years. This decision doesn't come as a surprise. When Barack Obama said Africa didn't need strong men but strong institutions, this is what Compaoré told us last August.
There are no strong institutions if there are no strong men.
In Paris, a source close to François Hollande told us France was disappointed by the measure in a country where most of the population is under 25 and has only ever known one president, Blaise Compaoré.
Congolese troops and UN peacekeepers fired live rounds at angry crowds gathered outside of a UN base in eastern DRC on Wednesday. Demonstrators were demanding to see the back of troops in Beni after 2 people were shot on Tuesday in another anti-UN rally. Locals accused the mission of not doing enough to protect them. Elisa Westerhoff tells us more.
Helmets in Congo to leave. This is what hundreds of demonstrators have been chanting today. For the past 3 days, actually, hundreds of Congolese have been demonstrating against the presence of the United Nations mission in DRC, throwing stones at the United Nations vehicles, blocking the roads. Today, they even tried to forcefully enter one of their bays, throwing stones at the guards. Their anger is very strong. As for them, the blue helmets have been totally unable to protect them against the violence over the past 2 weeks, where at least 80 people have been massacred at night. The tension got even a bit stronger today after 2 Congolese allegedly got shot last night when the Congolese army dispersed an angry crowd. Tonight, a heavy rain finally stopped the protest, and the United Nations mission in DRC has called for calm. The civil society the same. The head of the United mission in DRC, Martin Kobler, is actually going to visit Beni tomorrow to try to restore the situation there.
Elisa Westerhoff there for us. A quick look at some news in brief. South Africa's finance minister said that the country's economy is at a turning point as he announced that the growth forecast had been slashed almost in half from 2.7% to 1.4%. In presenting the midterm budget on Wednesday, Nhlanhla Nene warned that the state spending had to be capped and taxes raised to tackle a ballooning deficit. Nigeria has replaced South Africa as the continent's top economy. Growth is being held back by energy shortages, strikes, and low business confidence. Hundreds of students slammed the BBC at a rally in support of President Paul Kagame in Kigali today. The Rwandan leaders accused the UK broadcaster of genocide denial after a controversial documentary on the mass killings of 1994 aired earlier this month. Rwanda's Untold Story highlighted growing criticism of Kagame, re-examining allegations that the rebel group he led at the time may have sparked the massacres. The BBC's defended the programme, saying it challenges the accepted story of the mass killings. Several academics and diplomats have accused it of recklessness. The trial of Ivory Coast's former First Lady has been postponed indefinitely. Simone Gbagbo is accused of genocide in connection to post-electoral violence in 2010, in which thousands were killed. She and 82 other supporters of jailed former President Laurent Gbagbo were due to appear in court in Abidjan on Wednesday. Well, on Wednesday, a Ugandan judge dismissed the trial of 2 men accused of involvement in homosexual acts, the first since tough laws against gays were repealed. Take a look.
Walking out of this Uganda courtroom with smiles on their faces, Kim Mukisa and Jackson Mukasa are free men once again. They had appeared in court accused of engaging in homosexual acts in the conservative country, but a judge dismissed their case on Wednesday due to lack of evidence.
The prosecution has not been able to produce the witnesses to come and we start hearing the case.
For now, a weight has been lifted from the men's shoulders. However, they are not immune from further legal proceedings. If the prosecution gets hold of more evidence or witnesses, they can drag the case back into court.
I've seen what has been coming around, or what people have been talking, or people what are thinking of me. I don't think it is the end of everything. It will be the end of everything when I put my feet on the airport, getting out of this country.
Kim and Jackson were arrested just weeks before Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni passed a homophobic law in February. A law which toughened up strict regulations on same-sex relationships and went as far as to propose life sentences for homosexuals. It was condemned internationally and has since been revoked. Critics say Museveni signed the law to win domestic support ahead of a presidential election scheduled for 2016.
That wraps up African news from me, but do stay with us. A short pause, and we'll be back with more news and headlines from around the world coming up.